Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Stumptown, Season 1, Episode 1. It is called Forget It, Dex, it's Stumptown. Obviously referencing Chinatown there. This is ABC's new pilot that just aired, and it stars Cobie Smulders as a character named Dex, who I think from the trailer I was expecting to already be a private eye, but clearly watching the episode, it's kind of like, by the end of the episode, she's kind of becoming a private eye. She's really not to begin with, but it's an episode 1, so we'll start spoiler free and we'll give you a warning before we get into any spoilers. But yeah, so this is based on a Greg Rucka comic book, a comic book writer that we both happen to be a fan of, and Cobie Smulders is an actress that I think we both like as well.
Definitely.
Despite the fact that the main thing she's known for I don't really like that much, but I typically like
but
her.
you don't hold that against her.
Yeah. So yeah, it's this set in Portland, and she's kind of this vet who was in Afghanistan 10, 12 years ago, and she's kind of down and out of her luck. She's kind of struggling for money. She's got a bit of a wisecracking attitude, and is a bit of a drinker, a bit of a gambler, these kind of things. She's you're down and out kind of like PI is essentially what it is, but it's Cobie Smulders instead of some chiseled.
It's Jessica Jones minus the powers.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, it's a bit more lighthearted than that.
No, it is. I just mean in the way she comes across.
Yeah. She has more of a smirk to her. Jessica Jones always feels like she just wants to fight whoever's in front of her.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas Dex feels a bit more like, I'm content with just smirking and making fun of you and then walking away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the gist of it. You got Jake Johnson in there as well as one of her friends, and yeah, so that's the basic setup. The plot of the first episode is basically that the granddaughter of the owner of the casino she frequents is kidnapped because the family, of course, are quite wealthy. But there's a whole backstory here where this granddaughter's father, who was about her age, she was romantically involved with back in her college years and was in the war together with him, and he's been dead for a long time. And there's a history where his family kind of circumvented their relationship, so there's a bit of a bad blood, but kind of... it feels like she still goes to the casino. They seem to be okay with the fact that she owes them like 11 grand in debt.
Yeah.
So she's given her some leeway. Sue Lynn, the head of the family, has given her some leeway, but it's it's a strenuous relationship, to say the least.
It is, definitely. There's some history for sure.
But she's brought in to help try and find the granddaughter. Not when she's officially kidnapped, actually. It's just when she's just ran off with a boyfriend. But then it escalates from there, and we get to actual kidnapping territory, and the police get involved, and we meet another main character that way, and it's so on and so on. So what did you think of episode 1 of Stumptown?
Well, it was pretty good. A couple of little nitpicks here or there. But overall, once we saw the trailer a while back, we said this trailer had style and a tone that often you don't get anymore on network TV. And I think the episode delivered on that, if nothing else.
I thought it was okay. It's kind of like all the stuff that's in the trailer that gave me a chuckle, that made it feel like it had its own voice, was still there. But there was definitely sort of downtime in between those portions, like the actual plot and the way the plot plays out. I thought any kind of references to her past and the quick little flashbacks you get of her and her military gear and stuff. Like I thought all that stuff was kind of like, okay, we're doing
that stuff was very piloty.
Yeah, a lot of it felt piloted to me. And but I'll be honest, the plot felt like it dragged on a little bit for me. I was actually, because obviously it's a 42-minute network show without ads, and I'm very much used to what that feels like. I'm used to what a length of one of these shows feels like, and it felt like it was dragging on. I actually checked the time at one point, and there was like 15 minutes left, and I was like, wait, what? 15 minutes?
I never felt that personally, but fair enough.
I don't know if it's just because there was so much back and forth in the plot with someone being, ran away, then kidnapped, but then maybe not kidnapped anymore, but then kidnapped again.
Yeah.
There was so much back and forth.
Because all of that was so predictable, I don't think I felt the runtime in the same way where the back and forth was always every step as I expected. So I was always waiting for the next step. So it didn't feel like I was getting to the end and then it surprised me.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I'm kind of lukewarm on it overall. Like, I think Cobie Smulders is pretty good. I think, yeah, there's definitely some humor there. But ultimately, it kind of just felt... And this could just be a pilot. This is the sort of thing where this show could grow on me over time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think one of my biggest problems, I think, is something that will be fixed because I think Jake Johnson is criminally underutilized.
Well, there's a bit of backstory to this, but I should explain
Yeah,
for
no,
everyone.
that's why I was going to say I
Yeah.
think it's better because he was recast. Originally the role was played by someone else, so I'm assuming they didn't change that much in the pilot, and they just kind of slotted him in. But maybe it becomes more of a Jake Johnson role as it goes on.
Very possibly. He's kind of the platonic friend who's opening a bar and he's there for sort of advice to call her out on her shit. And she's kind of a loser. She's everyone kind of
Yeah.
assumes she's going to screw up, and she kind of does screw up to a certain extent, before ultimately maybe kind of succeeding by the end of the episode to kind of give us kind of the premise of the show. She's kind of a screw up, but she'll kind of screw her way into success. That sounded wrong. You know what I mean? She'll screw up her way into success.
It's the Legends of Tomorrow motto.
Kind of, yeah. Sometimes we screw up for the better. Yeah. It's got a little bit of that vibe going for it. And I must admit, though, I think where it falls flat for me is I didn't necessarily enjoy the scenes where she goes to talk to people to actually investigate the case all that interesting. There's a whole scene where she talks to this guy who she thinks she's there to like talk about the like potentially getting the girl back, right? And there's a little bit of a joke twist. This is a minor spoiler, I guess. But there's a joke twist here where this guy's actually just selling a car. And that's all it is. But that entire sequence of her going to talk to him and the what's going to happen next, and then the real like buyer of the car showing up, all of that sequence I thought was just kind of dull and wasn't anywhere nearly as funny as I think it was meant to be.
That's fair. But I don't think it was as consistent with that like every time because when she went to interview, question the friend with the phone, I thought that was fairly amusing.
The end of that scene was fairly amusing. The way she kind of like got her answers at the end was amusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'm just there was nothing in the way the show actually does its plot that felt kind of exciting to me. It still feels like a very procedural show. Like I feel like
it does, yeah.
Next episode she's going to have a new case because she's a PI and she's going to get this new thing to go and find and follow. I'm not sensing any kind of like season long plot arc really yet, outside of maybe just her making amends or maybe like growing with the family.
Some outlets have maybe seen a few more episodes because they definitely mentioned a season plot that was lifted from the comics that I don't think was even hinted at in this episode.
If it was hinted at in this episode, there was no context to actually know that they were hinting at something because nothing stuck out to me as this is set up for.
Yeah, so I feel like they've seen 3 to 6 episodes, the standard.
Yeah, she's got a brother as well who she kind of helps take care of. He has learning difficulties, so he's kind of this character who's there. It's kind of there to kind of give her a tether to the world where this is why she's not just completely off the handle and lying drunk somewhere, because she's got someone that has to depend on her. So it gives her kind of a lifeline back to the world.
And it's not perfect in that sense. She's not always like 100% there, even though let's say he does depend on her.
Yeah, because she kind of dumps him with Jake Johnson for like a day, where she was going off to do some of the case, and I mean he's happy to like sort of hang out with him while he's setting up his bar. But so we get him, and there's a couple of cops. Obviously, there's the main cop who's kind of a love interest, Hoffman, who she keeps calling Kaufman, and then there's a lieutenant who I feel we're going to see probably more of as well.
Yeah,
just set up some of the key faces that are going to be around. So I mean, I hate to keep sort of saying this because we did Emergence yesterday, and I hate to kind of like repeat something I said in that, but ultimately it felt like a network pilot, and well, there was a little glimmer here or there of like things that were nice about it. There was things that were solid. I mean, much like Emergence, the main cast, I mean, main star really in this case, is pretty likable and capable of carrying a show. Maybe has a couple of little sparkles. For the most part, it just kind of felt like, this is a network pilot that's going through the almost archetypical plot for a pilot to set up all the main key players and set up what your character is, which is obviously what a pilot's supposed to do. But there is kind of this thing where there's so many TV pilots every year where there is kind of a formula to it.
There absolutely is. I think, at least personally, I enjoyed this more than Emergence. I thought that the tone was just a bit more.
No, I probably did too. But the weird thing is that I felt like with Emergence, the thing that didn't work about it is that it was clearly trying to go for this mystery and it wasn't quite working. This show almost benefits from just not having any ambitions. Like there's no like we're trying to be this extra thing or
no, I get that because you're saying, oh, it feels very procedural, and it does, and I'm kind of okay with that because it's go. Do you know what? Screw it. We're being procedural for now. It's not trying to do anything fancy.
sure.
So, and that's to its strength, I think, at this point. I mean, we can complain, go, it's not what we want. All these things.
It doesn't get me excited though. Is kind of my point.
No,
like
no, that's fair.
I'm not excited about watching episode 2. Like
That's fair.
it's the sort of thing where maybe if it actually survives more than a season and I hear it's good in like season 3, sure, maybe I'll go back and give it a little binge and it's easy to consume that way. But like is it for weekly TV? Like, oh, I need to catch episode 2. Like, I'm going to forget this existed by next week.
It won't be a priority for me, I can tell you that. But I'll probably check out some more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is because I feel like maybe one of the things that hurts it as well is that all the good bits were in the trailer, and I think that definitely hurt it because the entire opening scene in the car was the first half of the trailer was that scene, just that whole scene.
I will say though, I appreciate that was just. Do you know what? That was the opening scene. So while one of the best scenes in the episode, don't get me wrong, but if, it's not taking the best scene from the end of the episode for the trailer. It's like, no, this is just the opening of the episode. Here you go. This is how we open the trailer. I can respect that.
Sure, but you have a double-edged sword because it is the best scene of the episode, and because maybe that's debatable, but the absurdity of how she operates and how kind of like not great she is at what she does, like, and the humor that comes from that is mainly displayed in that opening scene.
No, it does, and I do appreciate that. While maybe it does or doesn't necessarily top that scene on an individual, in any other individual moments. I mean, it's up for debate if you think it does. I think it mostly, well, maybe doesn't entirely live up to the promise of that first scene all the time. It doesn't feel like it's lying about what the show is either.
No, I think I go back to the formula thing. There was definitely little things about like how they were trying to like sell who she was that felt a little cliche to me. The car like being a piece of shit and not being able to start. Just does kind of feel like I've seen this done like a million times, kind of thing.
No, I agree. Although I did think it was funny when they brought it back up.
Okay, sure. And then speaking of cars, when she just tells the valet to keep the fancy car that she stole, for example, like that moment for me, like kind of like was verbatim, kind of like here's how we show how nonchalant she is. She's just like, here, keep it, kind of thing. And again, I'm sure you've seen that moment in a movie or a TV show before. You've seen like the cop or whoever's commandeered a vehicle and just says keep it or whatever. Like
I'm pretty sure it was a moment in Casino Royale.
Yeah, sure.
I'm almost certain of that.
It's just a thing where I can't even name any specific places, but I've seen it often enough where I went, oh yeah, this moment. And it just has that feeling of like, we're doing a checkbox to kind of like, this is what this character should have, because this is what tells the audience exactly who she is. And obviously, they should tell us who she is. I just wish it was a bit more inventive with how it did it, like a bit more.
It does.
Originality.
What I will give it credit for in the writing, more the dialogue. Maybe it's just her delivery more than anything, but it feels like a Rucker character. I can see that influence of where they've adapted it from, and as a Rucker fan, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I can kind of see that as well. I do think she's packaged completely around a network TV show. Like she's definitely sort of nestled deep within a network TV show, but there is a bit of Rucker voice in there. I don't think the show as a whole has a Rucker voice though. It doesn't feel.
No.
It doesn't feel like a Rucker comic.
No, not at all. Just her.
At least not yet. I mean, again, maybe once it gets down to some more long form plot, storytelling and stuff, maybe it'll start to feel a bit more like that. But like, when Amazon finally gets around to doing Lazarus, which they're promising they're going to, and I'm really hoping to do because I'm looking forward to it. If they get around to it and Lazarus like just feels as generic as this does, I'll be really upset because while I'm sure the premise of Stumptown probably lends itself more to a network TV show because that's why it exists.
It's a procedural detective comic. Yeah.
If Lazarus ended up with a tone like this, I'd be heartbroken.
Oh sure, yeah, and Lazarus is my least favorite Rucker comic. Not a huge fan, weirdly.
Madness.
But it shouldn't feel anything like this. Whereas Stumptown, I've read about one issue, I think, of Stumptown like 4 years ago. But it's
Surely
a
that's your least
procedural.
favorite. You didn't even read issue 2.
Yeah, no, but I enjoyed what I read. I just haven't got round to it. I was busy at the time, and I thought I'll come back to it. Whereas Lazarus, I read like 20 issues, and then decided, do you know what? I'm just not feeling this.
Nah, Lazarus is like the best Rucker comic. Connor's a fool.
It's wrong because it's Black Magic.
No, Lazarus is better than Black Magic, and I've read enough of both to have an opinion on that. So yeah, I guess we'll get a spoiler warning just so we can talk about anything else comes up. Honestly, there's not a lot to talk about in spoilers, really. There's a couple of small details where the boyfriend turned out to be in on the kidnapping for the ransom money,
Which is kind of a spoiler, but kind of not, because the moment where she comes in, and all the cops are coming in, and to arrest him, was in the trailer.
I remember the scene. I remember parts of that scene. I don't remember seeing him though. I mean, he may have been there, but I just didn't remember. Like, I remember her having her hands up and saying, "There's 2 more in the trunk." I remember saying that, but I don't remember.
No, I remember her knocking him down with the car.
But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of a victory lap because the opening scene actually doesn't take place at the start of the story. It's it's like
3 days later, I think it was,
or maybe more specifically in the story, it's just like the start of Act 4 of the actual story. And you see the other sort of side of it. Actually, they've got this thing in the first episode here where there's a mixtape in the car that plays automatically sometimes, and you can't turn it off. And it gives the episode like about 4, maybe even 5, like different moments where there's a different like classic sort of track plays,
and they're all great.
Yeah, I don't really have any complaints about the music choices, but I was thinking like this feels like a thing that they want to set up stylistic for the show. But if the whole concept is that it's off this one mixtape, then surely the most they can have on one cassette that she can't change is like what, 12?
I mean, if that, because I assume it's stuck in one side.
Yes. I mean, how many songs can you fit in one side of a cassette? I can't remember. It's been a long time.
6 or 7 at a push, I think.
Don't say 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, like I say, but I mean, a standard album would be 2 sides of a cassette.
Yeah, but I think it was more than that if you're recording it yourself, because I think there was like a long play, like like VHS had, where you could like double the length.
You could be right.
I think there was, because I remember having more than that in a tape. Of course,
I have no idea.
Of course, the joke here, a car sold, is got a cassette player, which is, ancient. And apparently, we are also ancient, given that we have any memories of said audio cassette.
Yeah. No, I have many a memory of cassette tapes.
I'm not fond of them though. As soon as I could switch to like CDs, I was more than happy to.
This one here averaged 26 minutes aside.
Huh. Okay. Fair enough.
So yeah.
Fair enough. So what you're saying is we've got maybe one more song.
Yeah, but see, that'll be the point where it's growing on her, and she'll just change it out for a different one. So, assuming she can somehow find cassette tapes anywhere. I wouldn't even know where to begin looking for a cassette tape these days.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the episode's fine. I think, maybe the thing that's making me feel a bit hollow about it is, like, anytime there was, like, an emotional beat, it just kind of was like, whatever. Like, there's a whole scene where she goes, when they think the granddaughter's been returned, although they're bizarrely not letting anyone see her, because it turns out later they're pretending she's back because the ransomers have demanded that they pretend she's back so that there's no police involvement, right? But she goes back and apologizes and tries to, like, give in the advance payment she got. She got like a advance for trying to find her, and tries to give it back. And the Sue Lynn's like, no. Like, I hired a plumber to like sweep a chimney or something like that. She says because she told this story about the chimney. It was basically that the idea being that Dex might have screwed things up with this other guy by sticking her nose where it didn't belong.
Yeah.
And she refused. So she says she doesn't want the money back, but Dex still kind of puts it down on the table as she leaves. It's meant to be this kind of emotional beat. And it just kind of left me kind of feeling like, okay, yeah, we're going through it. Like, I didn't really feel anything from the scene, so.
No, I didn't either.
So that's kind of where I am with it. It was a perfectly watchable show. I think I'm at a point now where, we have so much good TV coming from elsewhere that these network pilots really have to kind of give me some sort of spark. And I don't think this gave me a spark. It gave me a solid enough for what it is network show. Potential to grow, sure, but there was nothing really exciting me where I'm like, oh, I need to see more of this. I need to see how the season plays out. I'm quite happy just hearing about it later and seeing if it's worth
Yeah,
going back.
I get that. I mean, here's a sort of off-topic question for you that I think is interesting. Is given that this is probably the last network pilot we're checking out this year, or at least right now that I'm aware of.
I think I'm going to check out Nancy Drew in the CW.
Oh yeah, no, okay, I forgot about that one.
There you go.
I admit. And you know, you say, you know what, some of these pilots, they're fine. They're just, you know, they're a network show. If the hit television show Buffy aired its pilot as it was, you know, now, do you think you'd be, you know, we'd watch it for this? Do you think you'd be like, oh, I'll stick with it, or would you be like, yeah, again?
That is such a weird question because I have to ask a qualifier here before I answer this.
Okay.
When you say as it was, if it aired now, because if it aired as it was right now, then I would be like, well, this is kind of a weird like throwback show with these dodgy effects and like all these 90s outfits.
All right, no, the effects are updated, but you know, on par with now. But you know, I mean, you know, all the writing and the structure and such.
Right. So assuming that Buffy never existed before, therefore that means that Twilight never existed because Twilight obviously stole from it. I wouldn't have my anti Twilight thing in my head either, right? That wouldn't be there.
Sure. No, I'm just on purely as a network pilot.
Right. I think Buffy's pilot on its own is funny enough with the characters. Like I like even when I go back and watch Welcome to the Hellmouth, some great lines in that pilot. Some really witty lines. There's a moment where after they find a dead body in the first episode, and Cordelia walks up and tells Buffy when she's sitting with Willow, she's like, "Oh, it was a you know they found a body in the gym. It was way dead, totally dead." And then Xana goes, "So that's just a little dead then." That's a really funny line. There's sparks of dialogue in that first episode that I think would probably.
Do you think the sparks were enough?
That's impossible to ask these days.
It
right?
is. But I'm just trying to goad you into maybe saying no.
Hey, there's been many a show where I've came back later after dismissing it and found a great show. It wouldn't be that weird if Buffy started now. Would I do it to Buffy? Possible, because season one's not its best. Buffy became the amazing show that it is around the middle of season 2.
No, that's fair.
So you know. And a lot of network shows used to do that. And it's actually amazing because I think that some other better examples might be Fringe and Chuck, where those definitely started off weaker, and I stuck with them because there was basically nothing else on that I was watching at the time.
Yeah. Now, I don't think we would.
No, I mean I might hear later, like you know, when once season 2s of both those shows finished, and people say, "Oh, actually, they got really good in season 2," I might be tempted to go back and give them the fair shot, but that's when both those shows got good with season 2. So
yeah. No, I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, that's what it is. And if Stumptown lasts long enough,
this could be one of those.
Yeah, it could be one of those.
But unfortunately, we don't have the time to cover it. Every week for. Well, I don't know how many they actually ordered it for, but up to 22 episodes. You know, we don't have the time to do that for maybe. There's just not enough there. I
don't think the discussions per episode would be that interesting. I mean, because let's be honest, the discussion of this first episode had very little to do with the plot. It was mostly just about, okay, what is the show? Who are the characters? How does it handle its humor and so on and so on. There was very little about the actual kidnapping because ultimately it was just kind of a typical ho-hum plot.
Yeah, maybe as it gets into it, the plots get more interesting. And maybe it is just a very simple plot because it's the pilot and they just want to focus on establishing a couple of characters. So, right, let's keep the plot simple. That's a fair approach, I think. Maybe not the most interesting approach, but I think it's a reasonable decision to take. But, I mean, hard to say that, without the hindsight of having, a few more episodes and seeing if they get more interested.
But I look at first episodes of other things that I do love. And I'm like, you can, like, Mr. Robot episode 1 was like, no, this show's amazing, you're in for the ride. From scene 1. The first scene in Mr. Robot hooks you and just grabs tight.
It does. I distinctly remember hearing that, hey, this Mr. Robot thing is meant to be alright. I'll stick it on at 2:30 in the morning. I'll probably fall asleep while watching it. And then the first scene when I went, well, shit, I guess I'm awake now.
I
just want to say, it is not fair to compare most TV to Mr. Robot.
Okay, episode 1 of The Expanse. There's like a nuke goes off by the end of that episode, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm interested. I'm curious to see where this goes now.
It is again. I want to just not put you down, but notice that these are not network examples we're picking now.
Yeah, but we're at the point now. Can we keep just letting network have a pass and be like, oh well, it's network, we should expect less? Like,
no, but I mean,
the rest of the TV landscape is doing better things typically.
well, to our tastes, I think that there is definitely an appeal for some shows, like procedural shows. Sometimes I like having an episode of a procedural show on. Sometimes that can be, just a nice palate cleanser. Not saying it's better than Mr. Robot, obviously, but sometimes I like a break, and I'll stick on an episode of whatever. And maybe on that merit, I can see myself watching more of this.
All right. Well, there you go. That's our discussion of episode 1 of Stumptown. You can let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. And you get some bonuses, some exclusives. Higher tiers, of course, you get more, so go and have a look-see, and look out for other stuff that's coming. We're reviewing the new Netflix show, the first episode of that at the very least, called The Politician, which is out on Friday, and that's Ryan Murphy's new show, so probably up within 24 hours of this one going up, so you can go and check out that and look for more in the future. So that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?